This is the Free Zone Communiqué, transmitting from Virginia's unoccupied sector. If you think smart cities, DEI, censorship, government intrusion, bug paste, and other left-wing nonsense are no longer a possibility, think again. We've won one election with slim majorities. Our work to rebuild a free and sane America has just begun.
This is the Free Zone Communique on the P4B, bringing hope to people trapped behind the wire in blue cities. I'm your host, Matt Jordan. We will have a huge guest today, somebody everybody knows and loves, for our Super Bowl special. Before I get to that, a little bit of politics. The Donald stuck his foot in his mouth this week. A lot of the DJT hardcore fans are cheering, and there is truth to what he says. Some. It's the way he says it. That's always the problem. I was just talking to my son about it, and he said this is the kind of stuff that gives people perfect ammunition to beat you over the head with. It was the implication by Trump, rather direct, that the plane crash, the collision between the aircraft and the helicopter, was because of DEI. There's no evidence of that. I'm a little leery of who that pilot was. There's something to be said about that, perhaps. But that's going to take a lot of investigation before you blow your face off about DEI and that crash. Certainly, there is a lot of criticism to be made of the DEI policies that the FAA has been following in the last few years. Especially when you talk about make sure for air traffic controllers, you hire people with mental disabilities. No, you don't. And there is no justification on the face of the planet for you to do that. There's no justification to say X number should be of a certain race or X number should be male or female. When it comes to any job at all, but especially critical jobs, you hire based on the ability to do the job, the best qualified person. The last thing on the planet you need to be thinking about is what color they are, what sex they are they part of the trans fad? And you certainly, in a situation like that, in a pressure cooker situation like an air traffic controller's space, you don't hire people with mental disability challenges. That's moronic. So Trump's right to criticize the organization for that, but it was really dumb to choose that incident and to state it that way. And that's why it's a really hard sell, despite a very good track record, to get people excited about DJT when they don't like them to begin with. And I'm speaking from a guy I have ripped into the Donald many times. Anybody who's been with me for a while, especially during the 2016 election and even a little bit in the 2020 election, you know that I'm not easy on the Donald. And this is just one more example. It was ill-timed. It was low rent. It was a stupid thing to say. A little bit of Zihan. People wonder, why do you talk about Zihan so much? Well, I do find his work interesting. I don't always agree with it, as is the case this week. But I get his daily quick hit in my email every day. I'm not part of his Patreon account. I'm not going to pay for this stuff. But it's entertaining, it's interesting, and sometimes I agree and I'll say so, and sometimes I disagree and I'll say so. His last two of his last three, I guess I should say, have been kind of ridiculous. When he gets political, he tends to swing all loony left. And that's no different here. He does at least pay lip service to the green scam, global warming, climate change bullshit. And the other day he was talking about solar versus wind and how wind is better. Wind actually provides a load, where solar is unreliable. Certainly, solar is unreliable. It's poisonous to create. All it is a drain on resources and damages the environment as much or worse than any other source of energy. And it only works half the day. Only works 12 to 16 hours out of a 24-hour day because it can't charge at night. On cloudy days, it gets weak to no charge. So yeah, it's unreliable. Wind is, according to Zion, reliable. Compared to solar, yes, wind is reliable, but we've all seen no end of the videos where a person's standing there saying, I'm looking at these windmills out here, these wind turbines, and they haven't turned in 7 days. And there they sit, a great big field of these big, ugly, semi-worthless tinker toys. I still stand by my prediction that in 20 to 25 years, these will be rusted, rotting hulks. Nobody's going to want to take them down. I don't know who the hell's going to dig out the half acre of concrete sitting under them when we finally have to get rid of them. But they say, we get 11%, 12% of our energy from windmills. No, we don't. The way they come at that figure is they'll take a day, preferably a day where the demand is not high and the wind is strong and that windmill is cranking and they're producing all kinds of power, and then they'll test what's going out to the grid and say, we got 12% of our low demand draw from these windmills. When the wind's moving slow, you don't get as much. When the wind's not moving, you don't get any. And compared to a high demand time, windmills aren't going to generate 10% of shit. So they're tinker toys too. They're only reliable compared to solar. Compared to everything else, they're junk too. And they're going to be proven to be that, but not until we've wasted hundreds of billions of dollars putting these things up all over the country, sending money to the UN to put them up all over the world. It's a stupid pursuit. We'll be back with Ron's sports analysis and the Super Bowl pregame right after this.
Stand by. More to follow.
This is the 65 hoodie. It holds the solution to rebuilding our republic. I plan to start a public speaking campaign about the hoodie and what it represents. So, if you know a GOP or libertarian group in the Mid-Atlantic area that needs a speaker for a short civics lesson and a real political plan, I'm your guy. But you have to take the action steps. They're easy and effective. And grab your hoodie today. There will be a link below that says hoodie. Returning to the P4B in his first appearance on the Free Zone Communiqué. We have Ron Corey.
Hey, it's good to be back.
And trust me, Ron's very low key, but he's soiling himself right now with the excitement of being back. He really is. But Ron, it's good to see you. How's everything going?
Good to be here. We're excited, and I'm sure you are too, about what's to come on Super Bowl Sunday.
Yeah, man. What do you see? Give me a 30,000 foot, then we'll get into the specifics.
Well, I feel real good about it. Of course, I felt real good about it a few years back when we lost. I thought we had the best team a few years ago. I think we have the best team now. Now, one game, one fumble, one interception can go either way, obviously. But I feel good about this team. I think we have a better overall. I think we have a better offense. I think we have a better defense. A couple things do concern me a little bit. I think Mahomes may have a little bit of an edge over Jalen Hurts. However, Hurts had a great game last week, and if he can put up those similar numbers, he doesn't have to be passing for 4 touchdowns, 5 touchdowns. He's just got to put up decent numbers, and he has to avoid the mistakes like his occasional fumble, interception, etc. So, I think Kansas City may have a slight edge on the quarterback. Mahomes may call him the 1 or 2 greatest of all time. I mean, that's just the way it is. Although he didn't have a great year this year, so maybe we had that going for us. I'll give Kansas City maybe a little edge on the coaching, obviously because of the fat guy over there. Maybe a little bit more experienced than our coach. But that being said, the only other thing that scares me, if it comes down to the last minute or last seconds, obviously with Mahomes being a stud as far as that goes, would be depending on Jake Elliott for the final field goal. That scares the living hell out of me because of his inconsistency. Hopefully it won't get to that point. I'm hoping that the Eagles are ahead by 10 points as we enter the end of the game. So I see it. I see an Eagles win. And again, call me an optimist. Of course, like I said, I saw an Eagles win a few years back too. It didn't happen. But
yeah. I mean, a lot of the things you said, Jake Elliott, for example, I've seen him put it right through the middle under pressure and then work it off the side when there's no pressure at all. He
was missing extra points and making field goals. So I can't figure it out. But
he's been a real wild card.
The kicking as a whole in the NFL this year, it's been like very inconsistent. Lots of shanking left, right, just a lot of poor kicking play. I don't know what the deal is, if it's just maybe in some cases the weather's bad. I understand that, but it seems like a lot of these kickers have the yips.
Yeah. As for quarterback versus quarterback, I'm not too worried about that because the quarterbacks aren't on the field at the same time. It's quarterback versus defense.
Mm-hmm.
They uncorked something in the Washington game. They pulled something out of their ass in that game. Old connections being remade, using Goddard more effectively. All these things just suddenly came together. And we had talked about that offline just before that game.
Yep.
Saying even though Washington had given us a hard time early in the season, that if we could just see this, if we could just see that, and we did, like you said, he didn't have to throw for, 5 touchdowns. It would be nice.
just consistency. That's all I ask for. Maybe a mistake here or there, but just consistent overall, is what we're looking for. And again, he doesn't have to match Mahomes' numbers or anything like that. Just be consistent and avoid the mistakes.
Yeah. I want to see Kazoo lose. I just do.
Kazoo, I love that.
Yeah, it's that stupid helmet. It looks like he's got a Pee Wee League helmet on his head.
Well, he's a hell of a quarterback. I mean, I got to give him that. I don't particularly care for him. I'll tell you what I really don't care for, and this is the reason why. God, I hope the Eagles win. The whole Taylor Swift, Kelsey thing. That's got to go. That's got to go. And I'm convinced that the NFL loves it. Their ratings are way up amongst the female, probably 14 to 30 crowd, simply because of the Taylor Swift Kelsey thing, and they love it. And I think, and again, call me a conspiracy theorist, I think the Chiefs get a lot of calls simply because of that. That's just the way I feel.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if she was paid to be in that booth, in that box seat, you know. Uh, yeah, it's kind of weird. Uh, I've never, I don't see Taylor Swift as this amazing sex symbol other people see her as.
No, I
You know,
definitely don't see that. She looks like a
she's got zero butt, no ass
she looks
whatsoever.
like a she looks like a chipmunk to me, but that's just
Uh,
me.
but
Um, she's got some talent. I'm not gonna knock that. She's a and again I'm not a Swiftie, so to speak, but she's got some good songs. She's got very catchy tunes. I can understand that. I mean, I have no issue with that. But the whole thing is just the PR. And here's a perfect example. The Grammys were on a couple nights ago. I couldn't tell you three or four people that won awards other than Beyonce, who wins an award for country music, which is
country
another
music, yeah, yeah,
that's a joke in itself.
yeah. They had to give her the award because she's actually bringing people into country music. So it has nothing to do with quality; it has everything to do with marketing.
Oh, it's all the whole thing. The whole thing is marketing now, which is
Yeah.
very sad. The dude that won 5 Grammys, that's going to be the halftime show at the Super Bowl, Kendrick Lamar.
Who the hell is
I
he?
don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it.
Yeah, and well, I'm not even going to get into the Super Bowl halftime shows. I skipped them.
I will be
I
watching.
haven't watched a single Super Bowl halftime show since the Janet Jackson costume failure.
Yeah,
Wardrobe failure,
I can't tell
which
you the
was
last time.
nice.
I
How
can't
could
tell you
that be
the.
bad?
I can't tell you the last one I watched fully. I'll tell you who was pretty good. And again, we're going back a number of years already. Is Bruno Mars? He was pretty good. He was good,
Was
but
he?
I mean, the days of Prince and those kinds of people. You just Michael Jackson. You don't see that anymore.
No, they're trying to. They're trying to recreate those halftime show extravaganzas, that they used to have with the fireworks and all that stuff. But to me, it doesn't pull me in. I'd rather see the University of Ohio marching band come in and do their thing.
Yeah, the like you said, the platforms and the fireworks and all that stuff is more than the show, and more than the individual that's singing at this point. It's just a big
Yeah,
show, and
yeah,
it's a big PR play for Jay-Z and whoever's running the show there.
yeah. And Christ knows how much money that gets wasted on it.
Oh, it's just crazy. It's crazy. But back to football. In fact, I was talking to my son, who's a lot younger than I, and hasn't seen all the painful years of the Eagles. It's just a very special year with the Eagles and Saquon Barkley. We may never see this again. He has over 2,000 yards. He needs about 30. I don't know, 30 or 40 yards, which should be pretty simple to him, to have the most yards of all time in a single year. Now, granted, he's obviously
That includes postseason and longer season.
played some extra games, played the Super Bowl, etc. But regardless, the most yards of any running back ever is on the line in the Super Bowl, and all he needs is 30 or 40. God forbid, unless he gets hurt, he should have that in the first half at least.
And the name of that game, in my opinion, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is mix it up. Throw into the secondary, throw long. Who cares if it's incomplete? Throw it.
Absolutely.
Get them spread out, then send Barkley up the middle or around the end.
Right.
Do a reverse with Gainwell, then throw another pass. Just
You're right.
absolutely don't create a pattern of play.
Yep.
That's one of the things that used to was bothering me very recently about the Eagles, was their pattern of play. You could almost guess the next play.
Right.
And certainly if you watch some of the defenses on our uglier games, they were reading our plays before these guys came out of the huddle.
Yeah, yeah, and you're right. Just mix it up. I would use Gainwell a little bit. He's a pretty good running back. He's not Barkley, but he can spot Barkley, give Barkley a blow here or there, and then mix it up with the short passing games to Goddard, whatever. I wouldn't. I know people like to see the bombs to the wide receivers. I wouldn't worry too much about that, because then you're opening Hurts up to interceptions and whatever. Try it, shake it up a little bit. But you're right. I mean, do a little bit of everything, and don't depend on Barkley for 90% of the place because he's he's going to break down. I know, he'll tell you this is the last game. I'm going to do everything I can, but I worry about him a year or 2 years down the road with all the work he's had so far.
Yeah. I mean, eventually your luck runs out. Look at Gale Sayers,
Yep.
and that's going back a ways. I just dated myself, but
and he got beat up. Barkley got beat up in New York, and he gave up more money for our offensive line, which is arguably the best in the NFL.
Yeah.
So, but it's going to be a lot of fun. I think you have two evenly matched teams. The spread went from 1.5 to 1 points today, so the Chiefs are favored by 1, which doesn't scare me at all.
That's not even measurable. That's just the house trying to protect hedge their bet.
Yep. It's an even game. I went back and I looked, and going back to Barkley again, this could be, again, arguably, and I'll go over a few of the others, the single greatest season that an individual has ever had in Philadelphia. You can argue a few other ones, but it's certainly, I'll say 1 or 2. And I went back about 55 years, and I went back into let's see, some of the notes I have here. I have.
See, this is why I have Ron on. He goes back 55 years.
I'm a statistician. I go back 55 years, which is about as long as I've been watching sports. But 2004, you had Terrell Owens and the whole issue with the all the crowds that came in to watch him play, and he got into the Super Bowl and lost to I guess it was New England at the time, and literally went into the Super Bowl or played with arguably maybe a broken leg or a badly hurt leg at the very least. So yeah. I mean, I put that up there. Certainly not up to Barkley's status, but you had 2001. You had Allen Iverson, yep. The MVP, took the Sixers to the finals. That's up there. And then you go back into the 1990s. Eric Lindros into the finals with the Detroit Red Wings. All good seasons, but I don't see any of those anywhere near Barkley at this point. Now we're going to get into some of the ones that are a little closer. I have 1983, Moses Malone, and along with Dr. J, Moses Malone being the MVP and Dr. J having a great year in 83. That was a great year for the Sixers. Then you go back to 1980, Mike Schmidt, fabulous year as MVP for the Phillies in 1980. Now I'm going to go into the only two that I think even rival Barkley at this point, and I'll put them 1, 2, 3. Choose your order. I have we're raging ourselves here a little bit, Matt. 1975, Bernie Parent in the Stanley Cup with 12 shutouts and a 1.70 goals against average for the year.
That was unbelievable. That was incredible.
Great. And there were other players they could probably put up there too, Bobby Clark and Rick McLeish. But I'll put Bernie Parent in that superstar status for that particular year. Yeah. And then the only other one that rivals, I'll say Bernie Parent rivals Barkley.
Absolutely, yes.
I'll say that the only other one that rivals Barkley right now in Philadelphia history, and again, I'm going back 55 years. I'm not going back 100. I'm not that old, but 1972, Steve Carlton. A 27 wins, 10 losses, and a 1.97 earned run average for the year.
Wow.
So there you go. We'll say choose your poison: Barkley, Bernie Parent, and Steve Carlton, which makes this year so special. Again, 50 years from now, we won't be here, but they'll be talking about Saquon Barkley in Philadelphia.
Yeah. Something will be happening in Philadelphia sports, and this will be what they cite as history. Yeah. So it's been an amazing year. I know a lot of guys, they get to this point, they get in the playoffs, maybe losing the playoffs, or they get to the Super Bowl, and if they don't win, it's the fans tend to see that as such a disappointment. But I'm always thinking, this is amazing. Another winning season. If you get to the playoffs, you play great. You
got to give Lurie and Howie Roseman. You got to give them props because it's for a team to be this good for this period of time. Again, they had an off year last year, but they bounced right back again after a Super Bowl year a few years ago. It's just unheard of. And like I said, if you suffered in Philadelphia for years and years. This is just so out of the ordinary. But maybe we're becoming as Lori says, the gold standard, because along with Kansas City, probably the two best teams at this point. There's no question these are the two best teams that won. And I was disappointed that the Bills didn't beat Kansas City, because had we gone to the Super Bowl and we lost to the Bills, I wouldn't feel that bad because of their fan base and how many years they suffered, similar to Philadelphia's suffering in years past. I will hate losing to Kansas City this year. I will absolutely detest that loss if it happens.
Egotistically, that will be a disaster when it comes just to the ego. Their ego versus our ego. For them to win again is unacceptable. It's unacceptable.
That will hurt. And again, two great teams. It could happen, but I have a good feeling about this Eagles team. I think they are motivated and certainly talented, with maybe the best offensive line in football, one of the best defensive lines in football, a good quarterback, and I think they match up really, really well at this point. I think what really has helped the Eagles out this year is the rookies in the secondary, and I'm hoping they can shut down the wide receivers for Kansas City, because they don't have are great wide receivers. They have serviceable wide receivers, but they depend on Kelsey and they depend on the running game more than anything.
Yeah, and what you were saying a minute ago when you were talking about history, it struck me. I was just thinking this. My sons are in their 40s. They know very few years in their lives where the Eagles weren't worth watching. Right. Certainly my grandchildren. I have grandchildren that range from 3 to 23. They don't know what it's like to have a crappy sports season in Philadelphia.
And that's what's amazing. I mean, our age group suffered through 3 and 13 years with Joe Kuharich and his name escapes me right now, the bald dude. But there were some fun years there with Buddy Ryan and stuff, but they never won anything. I mean, the defense was awesome for a few years under Buddy Ryan, but never won the big one.
No, it was really frustrating to be a Philly fan for a lot of years. As a matter of fact, when they would make the playoffs, it was unusual and super exciting. Now youngins just expect, at least the Phillies and the Eagles, and oftentimes the Sixers, they just expect they're going to make the playoffs.
Yeah. Richie Kotite was the coach I was talking about. I'm thinking about it. His name escaped me.
Yeah. Health. How are the teams stacking up health-wise?
I think they're both coming in healthy, from what I could tell. I mean, look, everybody at this point of the year has, nicked up, whatever. But I think they both are coming in at as good a health as they can, given that they've already played 17 or 18 games. So
we don't have any major injuries at all right now, do we? Well, who did we lose last week?
Well, Brandon Graham allegedly is coming back and playing a little bit during the Super Bowl, which is amazing with his the damage he did to his
his
clavicle there, or whatever the heck it was. And I don't think anybody's come back that quickly. Now I think what they will do, and it would be unbelievable. A couple things that could happen that would be so cool if they throw Brandon Graham in at the end of the game. And he causes another fumble like he did during the Eagles Super Bowl win. How about that?
That would be great. That would be awesome.
The other thing that would be unbelievable if it happened, I don't wish injury on anybody. If Mahomes gets hurt, Carson Wentz comes into the game.
Isn't that ironic?
And God forbid, he could pull if he pulls a win out, it would be like Nick Foles in reverse.
I was going to say, wouldn't it be a tragedy if he got both legs broken again? Not that I want to wish ill on anyone.
But it
So
could, it's not out of the realm of possibility. Should Mahomes gets hurt, that Carson Wentz has to come in and finish the game.
yeah, and I got to tell you, with our backup, if something happened to Hurts, I wouldn't be in a panic. He knows how to connect. He has his personal tools out there that he goes to.
Yeah, it's a different game, but again, similar to what we talked about Hurts, just be serviceable. Hand the ball off to Barkley. Don't do anything stupid, and they'll be fine.
What do you have any plans for the Super Bowl?
No, not really. I might get together with some friends. I'm not sure if I'm headed up to Philly for the game itself with some family, but nothing planned. I guess what the big planning is if I'm going to go to the parade.
That's a big one. The boys are already talking about that.
That would
Um,
probably be it would probably be next to I guess what's today, Tuesday. I guess maybe a week from today. And again, let's not talk about any parades at this point. Let's win the game first.
yeah, well, you got to be ready. Kenny, I won't divulge his plans for the parade, but they are really cool.
Nice.
And quite honestly, your team went to the Super Bowl. They should have a welcome home parade anyway. You
Right.
know, they should march down Broad Street. Win, lose,
Right.
or draw.
Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
so Kenny's already ready. I will talk about that next week.
Okay.
And we're going to. Did you see any of my stuff with Evan? Evan Say It.
I saw a little bit of it. I didn't get a chance to take a look at it in any detail.
Dig into that. I was very nice, and he knew this. He was promoting his book,
Right.
and for that reason, when I disagreed with him, I didn't,
Right.
But it's a good show, a good pair of shows. I would recommend people definitely see that, and I hope to have him back
Good.
because I would like to dig into part two much more deeply.
Mhm.
being the resident godless heathen and all, because Evan pulls no punches. He says just what's on his mind.
Right.
So definitely worth watching. Apropos of nothing. And before we get into any of the sundry stuff, let's talk about what we're looking like this year for the Phillies.
Phil, wait a minute.
Uh-oh, he's switching hats. We're serious now,
Okay,
man.
there we go. I went. Oh, by the way, this is one of my pride and joys. This was the Eagles hat I was wearing.
Yeah,
And you can see
52.
this is
Yeah.
Super Bowl champions hat. There it is. We're on. What are we on now? This is.
We're on 59. Yeah, that's
I don't know
52.
my Roman numerals I get mixed up there. But anyway,
That's 7
Phil.
years ago, dude. 7 years. That's hard
That's
to believe.
amazing. Yeah, it really is. Let's see, the Phils. Yeah, I think we're going to have a good year. I don't know. You know what it's going to come down to, Matt, is hit the frickin' ball when it counts, which is playoff time. And they've fallen short the last couple of years, and it's so frustrating because they have a good team, but you got to hit it when you have to hit it. And they've gone this way through the year for the most part. They've had good years, and then in the playoffs they at one point or another. And I'll tell you what,
last year you predicted a 95 win season. What did we finish with? 95?
we were right at 95, 96. Yeah, we were there. 95. Yeah. Well, let's see. I'm going to go at least right now. And again, they could always add somebody, add a bat, whatever. I'm going to say right now, I'm not looking better than 90 right now.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I wouldn't be unhappy with that, based on what you were just saying a second ago.
Yeah.
It's always exciting as the season develops. You look at the stats, and it's like, we're one game out. We're one game ahead. And they're duking it out for first place all year long. And 2 critical years consecutively, they ran out of gas in October.
Yeah, and that's
the
so
early
frustrating.
October,
And the fan base is going to start to get angry if it happens again.
Yeah.
I'm a staunch fan. I mean, literally, I've watched every Phillies game for the last 2 or 3 years, and unless there was something going on, I've watched every game. I'm not sure I'm going to do that this year, and reason being, I'm going to save my strength for the playoffs, or as we get into at least into August, September at this point. So I mean, I'll go to some games. I'm going to go down to, as I mentioned, I'm going to go down to spring training and check that out. Which, have you ever been down to Clearwater?
I have not. I've always wanted to have that experience.
Man, you got to go. I mean, it's been a number of years since I've been down there, but it's so much fun. I mean, you literally, you first of all, if you get up early, you get to see them practice on the side field, and you literally can be, 20 feet away from them, and you don't realize it until you watch some of these guys pitching, how fast they throw the ball. It's unbelievable when you're right there. I mean, if you're in the stadium, you see it, but you're not really up close. You can't really see the curveballs and everything. Literally tracking it when you're right next to that player. So that's the coolest thing, is to get up in the morning, watch them practice, and then go to a game or two in the afternoon. And Clearwater is a great place too. I mean, you got Clearwater Beach there. You got all the food and drinks along the beach, and it's just a fun time. So I'm looking forward to that. I haven't been there for a number of years, but we made plans this year.
Yeah, I definitely should do that some year. Maybe I'll follow you down some year.
Hey, come on down.
You can break me in. But have you ever? You're
Yeah.
talking about the speed. Have you ever been? You've been to Franklin Institute, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen their pitching simulator, where you stand in a batting cage, and it's a series? It's a series of lights.
I don't think I've seen it since I've been there. Now,
the idea is you stand here like you're getting ready to bat, and there's a pitcher 90 feet away, and the lights start, light, and then a series of lights comes at you. That's the ball coming at you. And the idea is to swing, right? I stood there 3 times and went, it's it's flash, and that ball is past you,
You don't realize it, how fast these guys, and it's true with all sports. What gives me a kick is going to a Fly, and I haven't been there in a number of years, but going to a Flyers game and sitting down on the ice and seeing how hard these guys hit.
Yeah.
When you're right at the glass there, I'm telling you, man, it is scary.
Yeah. It's amazing you don't see like bodies smeared into the glass,
Similar to, like you said, standing in front of a Wheeler fastball. You or me couldn't even stand there. We would be backing out of the way. You can't even stand there. It's that scary. And these guys have to do it every day.
Yeah, I watched that series on Nolan Ryan. Did you ever see that documentary?
Yep.
Oh, it's awesome.
How about the time? It was Nolan Ryan, wasn't it? Is he the guy that hit a bird?
Might have been. Yeah, killed a seagull or something.
Killed a seagull. Yeah, perfect timing.
But I listened to, in that series and a couple other baseball documentaries, I listened to hitters, the best hitters. And they're making decisions when the pitcher is here. They're looking at his hand. They're trying to focus on the seams as he's coming around, and that's where they're getting into what they're going to do.
Oh yeah,
that's insane. That's an insane level of knowledge.
And at least for a fastball, if you haven't made your decision by the time it's, I'll say, at least halfway to the mound, if not before that,
less than that, yeah,
you're stuck. Now, the change up and all, if you can probably decide what you're going to do a little bit later there.
Yeah, that's why they're looking here. They want to see that, anticipating, okay, this may come low and inside, that kind of thing. But it's such a finely tuned thing.
Right.
The
Phillies have some issues. I think it's going to come down to hitting the ball, when it counts, which is toward the end of the year. And again, you don't necessarily, as you don't necessarily have to win the division, because a lot of these wild card teams wind up coming out of nowhere and winning it. Last year, the team that scares me the most out of anybody, of course, are the Dodgers. They spent big money again in the offseason, so they're going to be tough to beat. But again, you got to hit the ball and you got to pitch the ball when it counts. So you got the Dodgers to contend with. Of course, in the division, you have the Braves, and the Mets are going to be there too. But I think the Phillies are, in the top four, and you need some breaks. You need some breaks, and you have to hit the damn ball when it counts.
Yeah, it's a long ass season, a long hot season.
Yep.
I can understand the players getting burnt out, but that I think at that point it becomes a coaching and strategic consideration.
Yep.
Stay in the running. You don't have to stay on top. Just stay in the running for a playoff spot.
That's right. You want to be in the mix. And again, hit the ball when you have to hit the ball, which the Phillies haven't done for the last couple of years consistently. Yeah. So that's a little scary. But they have some issues coming up. This is the last year, I believe, for JT. It's the last year for Schwarber. It's the last year for Ranger. So if they don't do it this year, there's going to be a cleaning house. I mean, they may have to clean house anyway, win or lose. But this is probably the end of that window for this group of Phillies.
For this generation,
yeah. So they're going to have to make some decisions, and like I said, this will be the final year of a lot of these folks. They have the question still is, does Schwarber lead off again? It seemed to be the thing to do last year, but there's always that question on whether he should lead off or drop him down in the lineup a little bit. Bryson Stott had an off year last year, and people, at one point we're talking batting title for him with his skills. He needs a bounce back year because he wasn't very good last year. One of the things you'll be watching in camp, JT, of course, is still the first catcher. They're going to have to spot him a little bit more this year because he's nearing the end of his career. He probably only has, I'll say, a few years left. The catching's tough. I mean, it's tough on the knees.
It tears you up. Yeah,
it is probably the toughest, one of the toughest positions in any sport, I would say, along with, of course, quarterback. But just the knees that just don't hold up. And he had a good year last year, but you could see at some point that he was tired. So they're going to have to spot him. And the question in camp will be: is it Stubby, or is it Marchand who might be the number two catcher this year? So that's something that you have to watch, the backup catching. Apparently, they have some great catchers that are down in the minors that are maybe 4 or 5 years away. So they really the minor leagues look strong, but again, we're talking a few years down the road. So that's positive. The bullpen looks pretty good to me. They not sure who the last they're probably down one or two. There's still decision has to be made on who the last bullpen arm will be, but they have Strom. They have a new player by the name of Jordan Romero, who, if he stays healthy, could be a real good one. You still have Kirk Ring. You still have Alvarado. They have a new relief pitcher, Tanner Banks. They have Jose Ruiz, and there's a guy called Joe Ross that might be in the bullpen or might even be a possible starter. So their bullpen looks pretty good. They have a strong starting pitcher and is pitching. And Andrew Painter, who had the Tommy John surgery a couple of years ago, actually is ready to come back probably somewhere around the All-Star game. He won't start the year, but they have hopes on him actually coming back mid-year. But anyway, strong starters with Wheeler, Nola, Sanchez. They got a new player by the name of Jesus Luzardo from the Oakland A's, who looks real good. Of course, Ranger Suarez, who dropped off a little bit at the end of the year. So that's probably the top five right there. And they got, as I mentioned, I think I mentioned a Joe Ross, who might start or he might be in the relief. So the big question is, can they go to the next level, after falling short the last few years?
Who was the kid we brought in last year? Was red hot as soon as he showed up, and then seemed to fizzle. Who was that?
I know who you mean, and boy, his name escapes me right now. Is he the guy that you're talking about the guy that pitched a no hitter and then just dropped off the
Yeah,
mat?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I know who you mean. And his boy, he really dropped off the mat because I can't even remember his name right now.
Yeah, is
But
a no hitter like 2 or 3 wins and
yeah,
then nothing.
yeah,
Everybody's like, this is,
yeah,
this is our salvation. And then
he, and he subsequently got traded. I don't even know what team he's on right now, but
he got
he's
traded. Oh my
oh
God.
yeah, he's not in with the Phils anymore. Starting lineup for the Phillies, I have have Schwarber, who I guess will lead off again. Trey Turner, who he's got to get better. They spent a lot of money on him for okay results, but nothing great. Bryce Harper at third, batting third. Castellanos fourth. Alec Bohm fifth, who was on the trading block all winter. I guess they never got what they wanted, so he's back again. And I like Bohm. The problem is I think he's a little bit of a head case. If he has issues, he slams the bat down, slams the helmet down. He's got to grow up, and I think that's his major issue. Then
he's the type, just right around the time you start criticizing him, he'll pull a play out of his ass that nobody else can do.
Oh yeah, I mean, no question. I mean, he's got talent, but most of his issue, I think, is in his head.
And Schwarber's the same way. If you go back, if somebody wanted to take the time to go back to P4Bs, going back to before you were a co-host, and then, during the time you were, whenever we criticized Schwarber at leadoff, sometime in the next week he'd hit a leadoff home run.
Oh yeah, yeah,
yeah. As soon as it comes out of our mouth, he does this,
Right. And I like Schwarber's leadoff. The criticism is if he doesn't, like you said, if he doesn't hit a home run, he probably strikes out. Right. Although he does walk a bit, and then you have his slowness on the base paths as a leadoff hitter. So that's the downside. Now the counterpoint to that is you really only lead off one time. That's the top of the first or the bottom of the first. Once it rotates around, you're probably not leading off again. You could, but you may not.
You're just in the order, yeah.
Yeah. So is it that big of a deal? I don't know. I like Schwarber, and I think he met this. I think the coach will probably still keep him as the leadoff. I mentioned Schwarber, Turner, Harper, Castellanos, Bohm. We have a new outfielder by the name of Max Kepler. He's an interesting dude if you want to look him up. He's a German-American ball player, which I think in itself is a little bit rarity. Both of his parents were ballet dancers. So I hope the ballet dancing goes a little bit in the outfield for Matt. So kind of interesting dude. So check him out.
Give him a stride and some leaping ability.
Yeah, really. So he's going to be an outfielder this year. He'll probably platoon with Marsh, I'm guessing. But you got Kepler, Real Muto, of course, catching, Marsh when he's in, and Bryson Stott. So that's probably the starting lineup. Strong, and again, I can't emphasize it enough. Just hit the ball when it comes down to crunch time. That's all.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be a whale of a weekend.
Yep.
I don't know what I'm going to do. We came up. Unfortunately, we're here for a funeral, and we're scheduled to go home on Friday. It's like 2 days before the Super Bowl, and we're here in Philadelphia,
Right.
And we're talking about going home Friday. I also might get together with Phil. He's not going to be here Sunday either. But I'm waiting for the thumb screws to start from my boys saying, "Come on, stay for the game, dude."
Right. Yeah, that would be cool. It's always good to watch with friends, relatives, whatever. So yeah.
I am looking forward to the Philly season. I'm more of a Philly fan now, just by hanging out with you than I have been in the past, because now I can see when I watch a game, I can hear you talking.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, I've been a fan since I'll say 1964, when my uncle bought me tickets for the World Series that never happened, and I cried for a week.
Yeah, we had that National League pennant in our room for years. Tom got it as a souvenir. It was a pennant with the team picture inserted in it,
I remember that.
glued to it. Yeah,
I probably had one myself. Yep.
yeah. And it hung in the bedroom probably till 75
Right.
when the last kid aged out and took it down.
Right. Yeah.
Stevie probably had it till the day he died, I would imagine.
Wow. That's
But
amazing. And that's what brings, that's what I enjoy about sports, just bringing that thing together and the memories that you might have from, 1964 or 1980 or,
yeah,
or hopefully 2025. So that's what that really, brings it together. And we talked about this in the past. Back in the 60s, I used to cut the box scores out of every daily news or bulletin or whatever I can get my hands on and post it up on the wall and check out where everybody's batting and what their batting average was on a daily
yeah.
basis through 162 games as a kid.
Wow. And that's why you are the guy you are now. You have an inherent understanding of the game,
Right.
where most of us have the armchair and the beer understanding of the game.
Well, I have that too, but I guess from years of viewership, you pick up all the little nuances
Yeah.
of the games you're watching.
Well, bailing on sports, I was talking about something before you so rudely interrupted me today. Uh, I was talking about Zihan, and you've heard me go off about this knucklehead. Um, when he's numerical, he's cool. When he sticks to the math, he's interesting to listen to. But he has this weird tendency to swing left whenever he starts talking more policy than numbers. And yesterday or today, he was lecturing us on the new foreign policy. You know, uh, he says now that Trump's in, we're playing checkers rather than chess. You know, and he tried to be a little bit balanced. He said, Obama and Biden weren't all that great shakes, but now look, and it's just the other day we had Grinnell. Is that his name? Used to be the German ambassador. Goes to Venezuela.
Rick Grinnell. Yep.
He sits down with Maduro, and Maduro goes, "Okay, now this is what we want," and Grinnell goes, You're getting a gift by me sitting here right now. Okay? You are going to release the prisoners. If you can demonstrate attempted homicide, we'll talk about that. But everybody else is going home. And you're going to go get this scum. You're going to scrape your crap off of our streets and bring it home. And this is what's happening around the globe right now. And it is long term and it is strategic. And you have a guy with Zihan's understanding of the way the world works, and he's poo-pooing it because it's Donald Trump. It's Orange Man. There's some great stuff going on in foreign policy right now.
Well, just look at the weekend. Canada and Mexico folded.
Yep.
There's still a little, we're still into it a little bit with China. We'll see where that goes. I believe Trump is talking to Xi. Is it Xi? Whatever it is, this morning. Or this afternoon. So we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, yeah, and it's no matter how many times you see it demonstrated, people still don't get it. And we can talk about that. I mentioned this at the beginning of the show. Is sometimes the way Trump talks is stupid and it is damaging, but.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen, look, I'll say I agree with I'll say 90% of what he's doing right now. Not 100, 90% of what he's doing, but that's a hell of a lot better than the zero that we had for the last 4 years.
Absolutely. You to compare him to the window licker is ridiculous. It's just absolutely ridiculous. But the fact is, and we've seen this a zillion times since 2017, Trump's version of negotiation. We'll take North Korea, for example. Rocket boy, crazy fat boy, lunatic, As soon as that he sees the guy waver, okay, let's talk.
Yep. Well,
You know,
I
and
mean,
we're
perfect
we're
example.
buddies.
Perfect example. Marco Rubio. Remember little Marco?
Yeah, yeah.
He's now the Secretary of State. And by the way, he's going to do one hell of a job. I'm impressed with him, and I didn't see him as a great presidential candidate. This is the perfect position for him.
I think it is. I think he is more versed in foreign policy than I thought he was. Was he on Foreign Relations Committee? I
Yep.
forget. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So he knows the field he's playing on. But my point was, Trump comes in, breaks all the dishes, says you're going to give me 100%, and even if you know he's bluffing, you can't take a chance.
Right.
You have to sit down now. And that's how Trump ends up with 60, 70, 80% of what he wants.
Right. And it'll be real interesting to see what China says, because they're struggling right now. I'm sure they don't want a lot of this tariff stuff right now. Now they can hit us, but tit for tat, they'll be in more trouble than we are.
Oh, they are already in more trouble than we are. We print way too much money. We print a tremendously damaging amount of money every year. China does the same thing on a magnitude of 5 or 10 times as bad.
Mm-hmm.
They've done tremendous damage to their economy. I'm due to get caught up on China, but the last time I was looking, the real estate market doesn't exist. They have to give houses away now. I mean, they built too much. They're in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So it won't take much for Trump to nudge Xi to get what he wants.
Yep. So that's a lot of that's going to play out today, I believe. So we'll have to keep an eye on what's going on there.
Yeah, he'll come in and make a big show of making demands of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
What's important though is that it settles out kind of quick. We need these things to settle out kind of quick.
Yeah.
Because go ahead.
I was just going to say, talk about getting off the ground running, man. This has been, again, I'm not that much of a historian other than, during my lifetime, but it's got to be the most productive two weeks in presidential history.
It's been amazing to watch. And what gave him the impetus to do it was, since FDR, Congress has been ceding their power to the executive through regulatory power, giving them regulatory power. And I think the smart money, when Trump came in, went down the list. What can we do? What did they tell us we can do that even if they don't want us to?
Mm-hmm.
And he's using that. If Congress wants to stop Trump, Congress has to go through the 600,000 pages of law and the 5 million pages of regulation and take back that authority.
Mm-hmm.
And write laws that put the power in the hands of Congress as the legislators and Congress as the oversight. So long as it's, we want this to happen and we'll leave it to the regulators to make it happen, power's in Trump's hands right now.
Yep. So he's got the wind behind him. He's got 2 years. I'm not going to say 4 years. He's got 2 years to get this done, which is why he's working so quickly on this thing. And on the positive or negative, depending on how you look at it, Biden hung it up 3 or 4 months before he left office, and Trump knew that, and he was already working hard that last 3 or 4 months.
Yeah, it's going to be. Yeah, his transition was super productive, and like you said, he's got 2 years.
Yep.
Which I will bang that drum again. I bang it every week now. That's what the whole idea behind 65 is, that 2-year period. By the way, if anyone needs a speaker to come in and light their Republican Party, their local Republican Party on fire, there's an email in the text below this video line. Just let me know and I'll come and I'll talk to your group. The idea being is we have to, in 2 years' time, have an infrastructure, a party infrastructure based on the Trump victory. The victory was great. Scotty Pressler is a god. But now we have to make that the soul, the spine of conservatism in this country, not necessarily Republican. Republican, Democrat, that's money bullshit. The conservative movement has to capitalize on this. And I'll be glad to talk to any group about 65. There'll be a link to the original article that talks about 65. And at the end of that 2 years, we have to win, or all this has been for nothing.
Yep.
If Trump goes full lame duck and there's nobody in there to swing the bat at that point, if JD Vance doesn't step up to the plate, we'll be looking at President Newsom or some crap in 28.
I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think Newsom's going to happen, but a couple other people scare me a little bit.
Shapiro, you know.
Shapiro and this what's his name? Wes Moore, they're propping up here, the governor of Maryland.
Yeah.
So again, they're looking for somebody. I don't think it's Newsom after the fiasco in California.
Well, I was just throwing that name out. We're going to end up with left-wing DEI. You know, trust me, the Democrats, if you watch their DNC fiasco last week,
what a joke that was.
They are doubling and tripling and quadrupling down on all the bullshit they tried to force down our throats for the last 8 years.
Yeah, their leader now is David Hogg.
It's going to be crazy.
Yep.
Yeah, so I just jumped track completely on where I was going with that. However, I mean, as far as foreign policy goes, that's where I got into this. I'm feeling really confident. I'm sorry. The other thing was something I mentioned at the beginning of the show was Trump's handling of the crashes. That's where I get on Donald Trump, blurting out stuff at the wrong time.
Yeah, I have mixed emotions about that. I first of all, I think, he may know something that we don't know, but that's beside the point. You know what? The guy calls it like it is. I would have waited a few days. Might
have been a good idea.
A lot of people think that's exactly why he's president right now, because he pulls no punches and he's transparent. And whether you like him or not, whether you like what he says or not, he did it. And there's one thing. I think his motto, one of his MOs also is get it out there quick. Blast it out there, and a day or two it'll be forgotten. And I think in some cases it is.
Be the firstest with the mostest. There are people who will not forgive him for this one. That's nothing new.
Mm-hmm.
But there's ways of saying it. Even if you're Donald Trump, there's ways of saying it. He needs to depend on, if he's got something to say, he's ready to blurt something out, especially right after a horrible thing like that crash in DC. You have to at least pull a wordsmith aside and say, this is what I'm saying.
Yep.
So they could have taken his statement and reversed it. Horrible tragedy. There are things about the FAA I'm concerned with, and I worry that this might have been the problem. Mm-hmm. Or I worry that this might create problems like this, instead of saying this was caused by DEI and the FAA.
Yeah. I understand. I don't agree. Like I said, I don't agree with everything. The other thing I don't agree with him, that maybe a mistake. The other thing I don't agree with is he took the security detail away from a couple of people that probably should have it anyway, and God forbid should something happen. And the one that comes to mind is Mike Pompeo. We talked about this before, that he has people after him, Iran in particular. I'm not sure if stuff like that should happen.
Well, I thought about that, and um, if I was in need of a security detail nowadays, I'd rather have a few mercs and special forces guys around me that I paid for than what we've seen in the Secret Service lately, who are already stretched too thin. They're over assigned.
Right.
When the president travels, the impact on the Secret Service is incremental, exponential. And when the UN has its big meetings in New York, I wish they'd hold them somewhere else.
Right.
The Secret Service is taxed beyond its ability to actually perform. We've been lucky over the years that nothing serious has happened on any of these visits because there is no way these guys can provide adequate protection for all those dignitaries.
No, you can't have them for, you can't have them for everybody, but pick your spots. I fear for somebody like him who was on that that top 10 list along with Trump of assassination attempts.
He can afford some mercenaries.
That's Trump's point. Yeah, pay for it yourself. Which again, I okay.
Yeah, I might get threats for this show someday. That doesn't entitle me to get the Secret Service to come and take care of me.
I already did, and you know about that.
That's right. That's right. You were disowned. You were put out in the streets. That's not going to happen to me because my kids don't love me anyway, But yeah, dude, this has been awesome. It's been great to have you back. I'm sure that all my Delco Bubbas are going to be piling on to see this show. And we'll have to do it again. Maybe we'll get. We talked about doing this, about getting salmon from down south.
Yeah, we'll have to get Sam, who's our Braves expert, because it's the Braves and Phils are going to be right back into it again this year. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I'm going to ask Sam to do the same thing. If you go to Clearwater, take some video, do some reporting. And then when you get back from Clearwater, we'll get you and Sam to come on, and we'll run your video and talk about what you were seeing, and he can talk about what he's seeing.
Sounds great. I wonder if he go down to the Braves spring training. I don't know.
I'll talk to him about that. I don't know if he catches spring training, but I'm sure he follows it very closely.
Definitely. Yep.
But hey, thanks for being here. This is awesome. And we'll get together and do it again soon.
All right. Take care. Go Eagles. Go Birds.
Go Birds.
Please tell a friend about the Free Zone Communiqué. We live and die with the share and subscribe buttons. Please use affiliate and sponsor buttons to support our work. Thank you very much for joining us today.